You're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
Well, when you listened to my introduction, I did mention that this is almost 2 years after the NSAS protest, and I did ask, has any lessons been learned? Has the Nigerian nation learned any lessons in that nationwide protest?
Well, when we are talking about lessons, there will be lessons from the side of the police, there will be lessons on the side of the authorities, there will be also lessons on the side of Nigerians. Let us start with the Nigerian police. I know before the NSAS protests and the panels that were set up to probe the SARS protests, what used to be the popular slogan between the police and the citizens was, "I'll deal with you and nothing will happen. I'll kill you and nothing will happen." But today, I don't think anybody's hearing that kind of, statement anymore. However, it doesn't mean that violations have stopped. What has happened is, where there are violations, you can see accountability coming. You can see the case last December where some innocent citizens were extrajudicially executed while coming back from church service. Immediately, the Inspector General of Police got them arrested and they are facing prosecution right now. That is what we need to see. Before, it was not like that. And you could also see that during the NSAS, all the allegations were investigated. Some of them have been referred for prosecution, some for disciplinary action. Compensation has also been paid. So, one thing that is changing in that side is, if something happens, there are going to be consequences, unlike what it was before. Now, on the side of the people, I can say, well, let me still dwell a little bit more on the side of the police. I must say that violations have also continued since after the NSAS, since after the panels, and even since last December when IGP is prosecuting the officers involved in that extrajudicial killing. Others have also happened. So the question is, these things that keep happening, does it mean that what we've done so far is not having any effect? Well, I don't think that would be a correct interpretation. It is having effect, but maybe not as holistically as we would want it to be, or not as fast as we would like it to be. Because if you check, even in comparison with other areas, other countries in the whole world, violation has never stopped completely anywhere, even in the most advanced democracies. However, what is expected is that we keep improving our response to issues like this. Certainty of accountability is what you used to know developed societies. So for us here in Nigeria, we say don't violate human rights. But if you dare do so, there will be consequences. It will come after you. The law will come after you. So that's the same thing we say for law enforcement officers who violate human rights. The other issue is the issue of any lessons learned on the side of the citizens. Yes, you find out that the rate of reporting cases of violation has increased. Why? Because people now feel that if they report, something will happen, action will be taken. Unlike before, when there was total disillusionment, and people felt even if you report, nothing will happen. That is no longer the feeling of the people. I think there's some confidence restored in people now that if they take up complaints against violations like this, that action will be taken by the commission or CSOs or some form of government authority or the other. Now, on the side of government, which is very, very critical, action is also slow, in the sense that I would have expected that the agencies like the police, like the Human Rights Commission, like NAPTIP, like Ministry of Justice, that are fighting for people's rights will get a better funding to help them to fight this cause, because you don't know which human rights violation is going to come tomorrow. So if you starve these agencies of funding, and if you look at these agencies, they are the least funded in the national budget of 2023. The funding of National Human Rights Commission, NAPTIP, Ministry of Justice, these are very, very low compared to their colleagues. So one would say that the challenges in the area of human rights, the challenges in the area of violation of the rights of people and committing crimes has not elicited equivalent response from the government authorities, because I think we can do better.
Okay, before we really dwell more on the area of funding, many Nigerians have expressed dissatisfaction in the quality of the Nigerian police, especially in terms of education, training, and social orientation. Do you think this is a challenge that needs to be addressed?
Of course, this is all part of our recommendations for police reforms. Yes, we blame the police, but we also need to look at what is it that is making them not to perform optimally. The recruitment is a problem. The qualification of those serving in the police is a problem. The training for them is the training, access to training is a problem for them. Also, the equipment, the infrastructure they need to work. Ordinary CCTV camera is not there. So the police battles with a lot, and for us to see an overall improvement of the performance of the police, which is what police reforms is all about, we need to be able to address all these issues sincerely, with commitment, over a period of time. Because issues concerning societal values, issues concerning training, issues concerning provision of infrastructure, they take time. They're not a day's event. It's a process. But we need the political will to consistently invest in this area over a period of time before we can see substantial change.
The attitude of the Nigerian police in the respect of human rights of Nigerians somehow can be attributed to probably their course curriculum and the content of the training manual they have in training school. Do you think there are things that needs to be added in this training manual, or are there gray areas that needs to be strengthened in the course curriculum for the Nigerian police in training?
Well, what we say is we need to mainstream human rights completely into the training curriculum of the Nigerian police. And even after training them, we need to leave a constant reminder. For instance, when you undergo courses for promotion, it's not enough to introduce it at the first point of entry into the Nigerian police. It has to be a condition precedent for you to be promoted. So in promotion courses, in promotion exams, human rights should be a pillar that every police officer must pass before he can be promoted. And those who also excel in compliance with human rights should be rewarded. There should be incentive for officers who show exemplary adherence to human rights in carrying out their duty. So it's very important that the training curriculum has human rights totally mainstreamed into it. But more importantly, the origin of the Nigerian police is still haunting it. Because the Nigerian police force was established by the colonial masters to help them oppress the people, enforce collection of taxes, So it was not pro citizens, it was anti the citizens. And that is the psyche we have not been able to change. Now we're in a democracy. In fact, law enforcement agents like the police are supposed to be protectors of the people, helping to protect their rights. So it is sad that they are amongst the highest violators of human rights.
So the oppressive mentality is still in them.
Still overflowing into this period. So it is something we need to work on their conscience, to work on their psychology, to reorientate them to see themselves as there to protect the people now, not to oppress them. We need to do that. Unless you do that, the trainings we are doing will be across purposes. Because if they see themselves from the beginning as oppressors of the people, and you are teaching them human rights, they think that human rights is antithetical to law enforcement. Instead of seeing it as reinforcing, they see it as divergent. So if there's human rights, is against law enforcement. If law enforcement is applied, is against human rights. It is not the case. Both of them are supposed to be mutually reinforcing each other. So that is the mentality we need to get them to flow with.
You made mention of putting it in the consciousness of the Nigerian police instead in terms of training on human rights. Now, according to Police Act Section 68, subsection 3, states that in every police division, there must be a police officer who practices the law, who needs to keep reminding the police officers to be compliant with the national human rights. Is it what the practice is as of today?
Well, I'm happy that the law, the new Police Act, has taken into consideration, cognizance, the fact that respect for human rights is core to policing. Now, all of us must put our hands on the deck to make sure that we translate what is on paper into reality. But, like I said, this is not a day's business. We are going to do this through constant training and constant, evolving of policies and programs to make sure that this is a reality. And this can be done in several ways. Training is one of them. Constant interaction with the National Human Rights Commission is right. Like right now, we have a human rights police dialogue where we deal with common issues of human rights that affect both institutions. Constant interaction with the civil society, so that they also know that they owe a duty to the citizens. Is not only a regime protecting people in authority. That is not the main duty of the police. The citizen is why they are. It is the taxpayers' money that are being paid with. So they need to see the citizen as their primary obligation, just as the Constitution says, that the welfare and security of the citizen is the primary purpose of government. So the protection of the citizens of this country, the respect of their rights, is the primary duty of the Nigerian police or any person in government, not the other way around. It is not the protection of people in authority or government officials or the police. That is not the primary essence of government. The primary essence of government is rather the other way, for those who are governing to protect the citizens.
When you were talking, you rightly mentioned that cases of extrajudicial killings also happen around the world, but the difference is that there are stronger institutions that make sure you don't get away with any of it. But there seems to be lack of accountability in the Nigerian force today, when cases of extrajudicial killings or the police officers not respecting the human rights of Nigerians happen, the police authority seems to shield their personnel affairs. How can we address the challenge of accountability in the Nigerian police force?
You are right in the sense that the principle of spirit de corps, and that is because police has not been able to see itself primarily as there to protect the people. That mentality of we are there to protect the government in power, we are there to oppress the people. So even if we violate their rights, it doesn't matter. So if a police officer violates the right of a bloody civilian, what the hell is that? So, but if it is the other way, that the primary responsibility is that of protecting the citizen, when you now do extrajudicial killing, then it will be seen as a primary duty to hold you accountable. So it's all a matter of reorientation, reacculturization, so that we shift the emphasis from the government in power to the citizens. Then it will become obvious that if you violate the right of any citizen, if you extrajudicially execute any citizen, it is the highest offense you can commit, and therefore there must be accountability.
Some people are saying that the reason we are having this trigger happy attitude and mentality by the Nigerian police force, some have welfare and poor remuneration to that. What can you say?
Well, I don't think, yeah, a hungry man is an angry man, they will say. But when you are in the police, you are supposed to be a professional. That's why you undergo some training. It's a regimented service. You're not just like anybody, walking along the street. So you should be able to have rules of engagement. You must have rules before you use your arms. And as a professional, you ought to keep those rules. So you cannot say because you are hungry, therefore, any man you see on the streets, you shoot. Having said that, we think the issue of welfare of officers of Nigerian police force needs to be seriously looked into. Because outside being a police officer, you are also a husband to a wife. You are also a father to some children. You are also an uncle. You are also a member of a community where you have to fulfill your obligations. They are not going to waive you. Let's say your neighborhood is contributing money for fencing the neighborhood or paying even security for the neighborhood. They are not going to exclude you because you're a police officer. Your children have to go to school. They will not remove school fees from your own
Because
children.
your father is a police
because your father
officer.
is a police officer. Your wife is going to go to the market to buy food for children. So we must bear all those things in mind. That policemen also have blood flowing in them. So we need to also address those issues that bother them.
Okay, finally, before we wrap up the interview, there is another aspect of this human rights violation by law enforcement agencies. Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution talks about presumptions innocence. But now our law enforcement agencies parade suspects, and this contravenes the Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution. What would you have to say about that?
It's horrible. This issue of parading, we have talked and talked and talked and talked about it, and is not abating. You see, that is wrong by the police. Even the courts have decided on the fact that it is prejudicial to parade people, because the Constitution says you are innocent until proven guilty. So, what reason will make you to parade somebody to the public that this person has committed an offense? But I think police is succumbing to public pressure to show that they're doing something. Immediately anything happens now, people will say, if nobody has been arrested, nobody has been taken to court. So police is under pressure to show that they have done something. But that is wrong. You cannot, while trying to do your job, violate more rights. That's another level of violation of the rights. So this is condemnable, and it needs to be stopped. And we should also be vigilant in protecting our rights. My advice is anybody whose right is violated in that way should be able to sue and get damages from the Nigerian police, because they have no right to parade you as a criminal until you have been convicted and found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction.
Thank you. In the last 20 minutes or so, we've been discussing the Nigerian police and the respect of the national human rights of Nigerians. And of course, this is almost 2 years after the NSAS protest, and we've discussed if the Nigerian nation has actually learned its lessons. And my guest today was the Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission, Barrister Anthony Ojukwu, Senior Advocate. Let me thank you for being a part of the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.